let's talk about the monetization in Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. So guys, if you've been living under a rock during the first 2 days of the release, the big story has actually sadly and unfortunately been all around the monetization. What do I mean? Well, if you go on Steam right now, you're going to see that it's got a 19% review, like less than a 2, and so many complaints about the monetization, about how toxic it is, how bad the gotcha, about how greedy the devs have got. And we're going to go over some of those main arguments in this video. As a content creator, I've had people commenting saying, why am I not talking about it? Why am I not doing it? I have talked about it a little bit, but you know what? I thought, let's make a video and I'm going to lay this out and give you my opinion on it once and for all. Now, first of all, let me just start by saying that I think the first thing when you look at the problem around the monetization is you've got to think about, like I'd always sort of ask a player, where are you coming from? All right. My situation is different to your situation is different to the next guy. We're all in different stages. I'm fortunate in that I have put some money into this game. I am investing in it for the long term. Not because it's a big money-making scheme for me, but because I love CCGs, guys. When I played with card games my whole life. When I was 4 years old, I used to cut the toy pictures out of the Argos catalogue and make my own top trumps. I've always loved card games, okay? And that's a big reason why I do this, why I do content creation. It's why I've played pretty much every major CCG for the last 15 years, for example, since they came into the digital space. But I understand that not everybody is able to do that. You know, when I was younger, we didn't have any money, and the only time I got a game was my birthday and Christmas. So I understand that, like, this isn't just a purely logical thing. Like, it causes a lot of emotion in people, and people get really upset because they love it as much as I do, but obviously they get frustrated, they don't understand the changes. So I'm not saying in this video that anybody's wrong for having an opinion. I totally get it. I see the different perspectives, I see what people are arguing about, and I think it's all completely justified. So I will start by saying that. So what are the main things that people have complained about, and what are the main issues with the monetization? Well, the first thing is that people cannot disenchant the cards unless they own 3 copies. Now, I have talked about this quite a lot on streams and on my other videos, but just to kind of be really clear, when you go into your cards, I can only assume that most of this frustration is coming from people who played the original Shadowverse. In that game, you could come onto your cards and say, oh look, bug alert, I've got 3 copies of that. Do you know what? That's a Forestcraft card. I only want to play Swordcraft. I'm not interested in Forest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this card and I'm going to get rid of all 3 of these to get some vials. And then those red vials can be used to craft immediately those cards that I really want in my Swordcraft deck, so I could get legendaries quicker. And what that led to was a game where people could come in as a free-to-play new player, and they could just ignore like 6 factions and just completely vial all the cards and just use all those vials to make 1 or 2 competitive decks. Makes sense, right? You've got a favorite, you can start competing with it. I get it, right? And so obviously what they're saying now is that you can only do that once you can't vial the base set of 3, basically. It's only additional cards that you get after that. The problem with that old system is that well, there's a few problems with it. The first thing is that a lot of people got buyer's remorse, and what I mean is they got into the game then because they had this awesome Swordcraft deck, and a month later the meta changed and they wanted to now play Forestcraft, and they went, do you know what, I'd love to, but I can't because I got rid of all my cards. And they ended up having buyer's remorse. So it actually wasn't good, not only for Cygames, the developer, but it wasn't good for the player in the long term. So it's very much like a long versus short term thing. Now look, you can have your opinion on it, you can take any side, and you could be right? I don't think this is a right or wrong debate. I understand OG players like being frustrated with that when that's what you've been used to for 9 years. Personally, I think it's a good change. I think it's a healthy change, and the reason I say that is if you play any of the CCG, I've just come from Warforged, for example. We've got so many dud cards in that game that are unplayable that we all moan about every single month. you can't just get rid of them. You can't just vial them. In fact, you can't even craft cards. There's no vial system in that format. So I think what it is that when you look at the competition and you look at other games, I actually think that you realise that change around disenchanting cards is actually, it's been brought in line with what other games do. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. You don't have to copy what other games do. I get that. But that is basically what's going on around that, and it's causing people to be really frustrated. Now, I don't think the vial thing would be as big an issue if it wasn't for the other points that we're going to go on to talk about that people also don't like. I think that this is a cumulative effect, and it's all boiling up like a volcano, and everyone's just erupting around it. So the other problem that people, when you go on Steam and you read what people are saying, the fact that the dramatically reduced vial values themselves, right? So you used to get returns from disenchanting silvers, for example, that were much higher, and making it and now it's what doing, it's making it much harder to craft legendaries basically, and so people are recognizing that even with the vials they're not getting as much out of it. Similarly, in similar veins, a lot of people are complaining about the currency itself. Now, I have to wonder how much of this is like cosmetic, but if you look at the rupees, for example, if we go to the shop and I've got some rupees, okay, so let's say I want to go here, let's say I want to buy a pack. I've got 9,800. It cost me 500 rupees to buy just a regular old pack, right? Now, in the old game, it cost 100 rupees. Now, the thing about this, it's almost like comparing currency and saying, oh my god, look how many millions of, yen that is to the pound. It could just be a cosmetic thing. So there's a difference between like calling something 100 and calling something 500, and something being 5 times more expensive, if that makes sense, right? Do you see the difference there? Now, I think people are complaining about both sides of that fence, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's purely a cosmetic thing, but I have to say this is a massive mess up by Saiga. This is a huge own goal. This is something that could easily have been avoided. They should have just made it cost 100, because even if they just gave us slightly less in rupees, they could have made any change that they want. But I think the fact that they've changed it to call it 500 instead of 100 just feels bad. It just doesn't look good. Immediately players can point to that and go, look, it's gone up from 100 to 500. I don't believe that it has quite gone up that much, but I do agree that it probably has gone up somewhat. So again, if you were used to the old Shadowverse, you're noticing there that free to play, that's a big hit. And by the way, the reason rupees matter so much is that if you are free to play, this is the currency that you can earn through playing, through collecting, through unlocking missions. So this is the free to play route and currency, if you like, to unlocking packs. So I totally get that people would be quite protective over this currency and quite sensitive to any changes. And I do blame the developer for this, and I think they need to fix it, because this is causing a lot of problems. I think they need to give a little bit more value back, and probably just for the look of it, just for the cosmetic, just change it to 100 for a pack. And even if that means we get, we only get 50 in a reward instead of 100, right? It just won't feel as bad to people. Yeah, and it's just that, it doesn't feel good when you go through these dailies. I'm unlocking all of these, like missions. I'm going, oh, look at all these rupees I've got, and then I go 9,100. Sounds like a lot, but actually it's 18 packs. It's not as much as you would think. Whereas obviously if that was 100 per pack, that would be a lot more. When we're talking about value, another thing that people have got an issue with is the actual way that the cosmetics work with the leader values. Now, people have broken this down in way more detail than me, but I will just sort of like cut to the chase and say that the drop rates, the odds of you actually getting the cosmetics, the leader cosmetics, are just ridiculous, right? They're just so expensive and so rare to get. Now, obviously, these things should be somewhat rare, and I also think cosmetics is a good thing to charge money for, right? Because it doesn't affect the power level of the game, so someone can be free to play, but if they want to support the dev and the game itself, they can still have that nice kind of like flex by buying themselves, you know, a really cool skin or something. So I agree in principle that cosmetics should be like something that can be purchased. But again, if you love Shadowverse, if you're connected to this story and the characters in this world and this lore for 9 to 10 years, I totally understand that this is a massive, feels like a massive kick in the... Absolutely. So again, not blaming anyone and just letting you know this is the kind of stuff that people are, you know, they're really mad about, and there's a lot of frustration when you read those reviews on Steam. And you know, fair enough. I think a lot of it really is fair enough. I think part of the issue as well is I've had a lot of people asking me for budget decks, and one of the questions that I'm being asked to think about at the minute quite a lot is how easy is it for someone who does want to play free-to-play, for example, to come in and to just build decks without owning all the legendaries? And the thing about it is I'm still a bit unsure, if I'm really honest. Now, in other games that I've played, like again, if I take Warforged as the most recent game that I've played, in Warforged, you really do have to have the legendaries. If I've got all the legendaries and you haven't, I'm probably going to win the game. It's very difficult for you to out-skill play me. And I do think that the best CCGs enable skilled players to win with lesser decks. You know, they don't have to have all the legendary cards. And I think that should be a little bit of a... it needs to be weaved into the design. One game that's pretty good at that is Magic the Gathering. I feel a little bit like, I feel like not all legendaries are just like S tier metas. They're more themed around certain kind of approaches and archetypes, and I always point to that as a pretty good example of how you can do it. Now, in this game, it's really difficult to tell which side the game's falling on, because it's the first set. We've only got 26 cards per class, right? So right now I would lean towards saying yes, it does feel like it's hard to get a budget decks and for players to be able to kind of express skill and just dominate, you know, beat basically better players. I do think that's possible. I'm not saying it's like, if this is a continuum, I'm not saying this is like right at the end of, oh, it's terrible. But this is something that people have picked up and are also complaining about, and one of the reasons for the review bomb. So I can kind of see where people are coming from. I need to play test a little bit more, but I would say that at the minute the game, you know, you have definitely got an advantage if you've got the legendary and the gold cards than if you haven't. And I suppose that should always be a case to a degree, but I do feel that if we were going to have a big tournament with all the best players right now, and we had a mixture of, you know, like those players only had free-to-play accounts and didn't have golden legendaries, I don't think they would do very well. So I do think that's adding to the frustration and adding to the, I've got to get my collection quick, I've got to get the best cards, otherwise what's the point, I can't compete. And again, if they don't fix that, then they will lose players. Now, you could say one of the ways of fixing that is to get on with the release, right? Is to get more cards into the game, and hopefully that's what that's going to achieve. The worry is, and one of the things that people are complaining about, is that, wait a minute, even if I grind all day as a free-to-play player, next month the next expansion's coming out already, and then, oh, the next one's coming out a month later. And when you look at the next 5 to 6 months, and you see how fast things are coming out, which should be something we're all excited about, that can cause panic, and that can just demoralize people, because they think, well, what's the point, right? Because I'm playing free-to-play, I'm not even going to get the cards from this base set, never mind, then collect all the new cards that are coming in 4 to 5 weeks' time. So I totally understand the sense of desperation there. It might, in a weird way, make free-to-play more accessible when there's more cards in the pool, as I explained earlier, though. So that one is just kind of like up in the air. Let me know in the comments again what you think about that. One of the weird things, I mean, I was a little bit dismissive of the Steam scores just because I found out that there was like groups on Reddit like organizing to go on and do this kind of whole review, you know, score review bombing and everything, and they did it in Counter-Strike, and they've done it in loads of games where people do this, and it just ruins it for the average person. Because I've got people coming to me saying, oh, I was going to play Shadowverse, but then I saw these reviews and everybody hating it on Steam, and I'm like, no one's talking about how bad the game is. The game is amazing. The game is fundamentally brilliant. I think as a foundation for a CCG to play over the next 10 years, they've done a great job. They've just not nailed the monetization, and they need to do some work on it. If you look at those review bombs, very few of them are talking about how bad the gameplay is, how bad the archetype designs are, how bad the UI is, how bad the graphics are. No one's talking about that stuff. That's all fantastic. It's so modern, it's so 2025, it's so now, it's so brilliantly done. It's learned so many lessons from other CCGs, including the original Shadowverse, and it feels really good to play. We definitely need more cards, and we definitely need more. We need a review of the monetization, and I think with this type of scale of complaint, I do think it's going to get back to the devs, and I do think something's going to happen. Look, we can only look to the history or into the past, and historically, Cygames have been quite a generous developer. They give away free packs, they celebrate with players by giving you things. So long may that continue, and let's hope they look at this. And because, guys, 110,000 were concurrently playing on Steam on day one. I checked today, by the way, which is day 2, after all this review bombing, and there were still 99,000, right? So again, sometimes a minority of people sounds very loud online. The vast majority of people are playing the game at the minute and enjoying it. But look, I fully accept that if they don't address this monetization, we're going to lose players. And that's a terribly sad state of affairs for a game that is so good. It's nailed so many things. It is super exciting, this game. I think if you're like me and you are getting in at the start because you want to be at the beginning and you want to kind of play this game long term, then we couldn't wish for anything better other than them sorting out this monetization problem. So yeah, if you wanted to know what I feel like it's really sad and it's really disappointing that this is the headline, because I am so impressed with my time in the game so far. I just want to get on and play more so I can learn it. My content hasn't been great so far. If you look at my content in other games, I feel like the quality of my videos has been much better. I've been more relaxed. It's because I'm learning. It's because it's all new. It's because I'm adapting to a new crowd of people and all that sort of stuff. So I think my channel will get better. I think my content will get better. I think my more authentic self will come out as time goes on. But in terms of the game, guys, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm falling in love with this game already. I really can't say enough good things about it, and I just feel sad that this is what's dominated the headlines for 2 days. So let me know down in the comments what you think. I hope this has addressed some of the comments, people saying like, is this guy ever going to talk about monetization? I hope this is I hope you feel like I'm being honest with you and I'm kind of saying what my opinion of it is. I am paying money, so I'm not experiencing all the free-to-play frustration. But even, guys, I've spent over £100 on this game, and I haven't got all the cards. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm just sitting here with every card as well. But I have hope. That's how I look at this game. Is fantastic, and I hope you're gonna I hope they're going to address the monetization, and then people will, come back to the game or keep playing the game. And if you are a free-to-play player, I do really think that what you should focus on right now is just enjoying the game and slowly building your collection, and not expect to have all of the legendaries and all that in week 1, because even people are paying don't have that. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm rambling now. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it. Bit of a down in this video, I know, but if you can hit that thumbs up, and I'll see you for some more content soon.